Hi everyone, we're here with Ed Burns, a Java champion at Microsoft. And as part of our interviewing Java champions, we're going to ask Ed some great questions around his career and him being a Java champion. So the first question is, first of all, we've got Sandra here. Sandra, give us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Hi. Hi, Rory. Thanks for having me. I'm a cloud advocate as well. We are on the same team. And yeah, I'm also very curious what Java champions do, how to become a Java champion. You can't see my age. I have studied. I'm not super young, but still I'm like in the starting position of my career. So I'm super curious how to become a champion myself as well. And yeah, I also want to know all the new facts about Java and how to proceed and what's next, right?
So it would be great to actually hear the secrets and the tricks of the trades a little bit. And I think that the first question really can maybe allude to that. So Ed, tell us a little bit about your career so far and how you actually led up to be a Java champion.
Thanks, Rory, and thanks, Sandra, for the opportunity to be here. And I want to also give a special greeting, schöne Gruß zu meine Freunde und Freundinnen in Deutschland. So, ich hoffe, dass ich komme bald zurück. So.
Das hoffen wir auch.
Ich auch. Javaland 2021. So, the career question. Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about a lot, written a book about this. If you've been old enough and long enough in the industry, you can have to think about these things, right? Being mid-career. So my number one statement, I'll say, has been very, very blessed. I've had the opportunity to be at a university way back in 1994, University of Illinois, and was one of the first 1,000 people on the web that had a homepage, right? This is before CSS, this is before JavaScript, this is HTML 0.9, NCSA Mosaic. And so I'm starting with that because it gives me a chance to talk about seeing things evolve in real time as they go along. So working on the client side with NCSA Mosaic, and then working in the industry in the early days of web authoring, Silicon Graphics, Cosmo Create was the thing, and then joining Sun in '97, which when we get to the Java Champion portion, I've been doing Java many years before there was even a Java Champion program, and we'll cover that later. But then eventually going from the client side to the server side, working on early versions of J2EE and JSF and Servlet, and just having this blessing of having a perspective of being on the inside for such a long time. And then coming to Microsoft in June of last year, because the cloud is the evolution of computing nowadays, and we just can't do anything without the cloud. And now being able to have a perspective inside of Microsoft to continue to advance the open standard enterprise Java movement, which is something I definitely am excited that we're doing here at Microsoft, because any cloud provider that wants to be successful has to recognize that we have to meet developers where they are. So if we're going to try to do the typical old trick that Microsoft has done in the past of trying to constrain options and bring you in through that path, that doesn't work anymore with the cloud. Now we just have to admit, okay, the options are open, and really it's the customers and the users that are in charge of where things are. So we have to meet them rather than try to guide them into us. And Java is one part of that.
So dovetailing and segueing into the privilege that is the Java champion, right. It really sounds like the theme that you mentioned, the blessing. Tell us a little bit about how do you feel about the Java champion, and really how did you become a Java champion?
Right. So it's one of those funny things where I was many people that are already Java champions were like, wait, I thought you were one, like many years ago. So being an employee of Sun and then Oracle, and you've already mentioned this in your interview with Bruno, not eligible, which I understand. It makes sense. You don't want people who are on the payroll. You want people that actually have real passion. But all during this time, even at Sun and Oracle, I really did have the passion for doing the Java open standard work. I really did have the belief, and still do, that if we build technologies as a single vendor in isolation from the users of those things, they won't be as useful as if we collaborate across companies, like the real multilateral collaboration that is the Java community process, which springs from the Java community. Now, there's been an enormous amount of debate and evolution over the years about how community the JCP actually is, but it has learned those lessons and applied them, and it really truly is a full community process now. And it was for a long time. Many times people would complain about things, and there wasn't much of a basis for that complaint except to make a point, like, oh, it's not open enough, right? I remember the famous Apache Harmony ASF letter that was written as an open letter many, many, many years ago regarding the TCK for the core JDK. And I was one of the people inside that was always pushing for more and more open. And there was a lot of people inside of Oracle and Sun that were doing that. So those things are real Java champion style things, but none of us could have been eligible for that. So I'm not going to debate that. But after going to Microsoft and waiting the mandatory 6-month period, at least from my perspective, I was able to get my nomination forward, and it's a very transparent process, and I had the blessing of having a lot of people I know giving me the thumbs up and endorsement. So it's a big honor. So I'd like to use the Java Championship aspect to advance one particular thing that is already being worked on, and that's Java in education. Fellow Java champion Ken Fogel has been doing some work on this front, and this really fits in with what we're doing at Microsoft, because we have a product, Visual Studio Code, that is very popular in the education space. And it's also very popular in the place where we need to go with Java, which is young developers that are entering the career and they're not Java native. They're probably coming to Java because they've been given a maintenance role on some kind of legacy system that they have to keep working or maybe add features to. But their expertise is more in script-based languages like Node or Ruby, which has great support in Visual Studio Code already. So the fact that we can use that one tool to reach them, and again, it's an open source tool, it's collaboration development, not the typical closed source embrace and extend, but the open for collaboration approach. So that's what I plan to do.
Now, with the Java champion, obviously you're known to the Java audience, the ecosystem, the developers, and it gives you a privilege, a position to elevate both your career and also Microsoft's career. So maybe if you can speak through also what do you see as your future career achievements also around the Java Championship and elevating the Java ecosystem?
Yes. So I have said before in this interview that the multilateral ecosystem and community is the major strength of Java and the thing that differentiates it from many of the other languages out there. Now let's take, for example, Python. Now it is true that the Python Foundation is the steward of the Python language, and for many years Guido van Rossum was the benevolent dictator of the Python system. But it wasn't, it had a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people that were developing Python libraries and stuff, and a lot of vitality, but the core definition of the language itself was very much under the benign dictatorship of the one individual. And we have an analog for that in the Java world as well. If you look at the evolution of the Spring ecosystem, which is an incredibly important part of enterprise Java, that was developed by Spring. There was no community process. While they do depend on some JCP standards like Servlet and JSP and JMS, they very much maintain the stewardship of their own stack under their own control. And there's very good business reasons for that, and they've certainly done a great job in terms of delivering real value to their users. But one thing that separates it from the Java EE side is the presence of a standards body that ensures that everyone has a voice in the community. And that's the thing that I really want to make sure is represented in Java at Microsoft. the fact that the strength of Java is the voice of the community, and the strength of the voice of the community is the open standard process. So it was JCP, and now it's Jakarta EE. And we have a number of different offerings that we're bringing to market now. To name a few names here, we have App Service, which is a huge important part of our Azure portfolio, now has a support for JBoss EAP, which is a fully Java EE8 compatible runtime. We also have support for WebLogic, which is a closed source proprietary technology, but it's also a very powerful and popular Java EE runtime, also Java EE8 compatible. And we are working with partnerships with other players like Helidon, Quarkus, Micronaut to try to bring those all there. So we have to be a big tent and allow everyone to come in. And so my role is to try to help ensure that all of the stakeholders are represented in a real multilateral way.
That sounds really exciting, really engaging, a little bit stressful when you said all of those names. And one of the points of these interviews is to show the vibrant and the really engaging Java ecosystem that we have at Microsoft. And it's great to actually hear from you around the Java EE, the Jakarta EE specifications. Anything that you're really looking forward to in the Jakarta EE specifications that are coming through? I was a big Nashorn fan, and now with Java 16 they've taken it out, and I feel like I've wasted a little bit of my time on Nashorn. Anything that you're really super excited to see come through?
Yes, and this is very prosaic. Putting the great renaming package problem behind us. So this is something that gummed up the works for a long time, and there are good business and technical reasons for it. But now that we've got that done, being able to actually evolve and get new features going in, and also the synergy with microprofile. So when we come to building cloud-native applications, the difference between Jakarta EE and microprofile becomes more apparent. Now, both of them are run in the Eclipse Foundation, but they have a different focus area. So the microprofile was started with all of the stakeholders involved there, David Blevins and IBM and Red Hat, and, even Oracle as well, to build something that is appealing to a cloud-native development office or environment. So you have telemetry, you have tracing, you have configuration, all of those cross-cutting areas, which Java EE had the concept of cross-cutting areas, but this is a different set of concerns that are more cloud-native focused. So I would like to see that be evolved more and supported. So the combination of EE for the compatible and legacy kind of enterprise applications and microprofile for the new forward-facing ones is something that's really exciting to me.
Great. Thanks so much today for spending time with us, Ed.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Cheers.